Hi, everyone. This is Tracy from the Fairborn Library here in Greene County, Ohio. Today, I thought we would talk about something fun with Halloween coming up and how to research your house because you think your house is haunted. It seems like a silly question, but we do get asked that a lot here at the library. So I figured we'd do a little basic tutorial on what to do if you think your house is haunted. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, so you think your house is haunted. So what's the first thing you need to do? First, you need to find out who has lived in your house or on the property. Now, it's said that hauntings can be either from the house, items in the house, or the actual land that you're on. So it's important to know who's been there so you can learn who to research. And you can do that through deeds, property maps, newspapers, directories, census records, and using a genealogy style approach to the research. Then you need to find out, after you found out all your people and have a big list of names, then you need to go through and find out what happened in the property. You can do that through newspapers, social media, maps, news stories, old stories, histories of the area. All of that stuff can help lead to things that have happened on your property. So how do you research a deed? The first thing you need to do is find it. Here in Greene County, the deeds are on the auditor's page for the most recent, and then they go to the recorder's office. On the auditor's page, you can find a lot of information along with the deed, including when the house was built, how big the house and the property are, if there were any additions or renovations, because apparently that can stir up spirits and make them angry as well, and permits that have been pulled. After so many years, stuff gets sent to the recorder's office for basically long-term storage. And here in Greene County, we can see back to 1984 online. And prior to that, we have indexes where you can look them up. I'm going to show you a little bit what they kind of look like here in a minute. Again, this is just a way to get the list of who owned the properties in the past. So this is the auditor's webpage, and to do a search here, you would go up here and search by owner, ID, or street number, and then you'd find a list of who owns it, and you can look at the deed that way. This is the recorders, and it's similar to the auditor's page in that you can look different things up about your house. The ones that I have found the most helpful have been the recorder's document search. Cloud search is still kind of new. I haven't quite figured that one out all the way. And the reverse directory, or reverse and direct index. So what I usually do here in Greene County is I look up stuff at the auditor's page, find out who the owners are, and then go do a document search to see if any permits or things like that have been pulled for remodeling. Then you can trace it back through the page and book numbers on the actual deed to find out who the previous owner was. Some key vocabulary you're going to need to know is grantor and grantee. A grantor is the person selling the house. A grantee is buying the house. And an instrument of reference is the property mentioned in the previous deed. So you have different parts of a deed. You have who's buying and selling it, the commonly known as address, which is typically the mailing address, and then a description. Sometimes these are very specific with latitude and longitude points. Other times they're kind of vague, like the corner of the big oak tree next to Mills Pond. Not exactly the most helpful, but at least it gives you an idea. If there are any covenants, conditions, terms of use of the property, deeds from the last property, it'll have in reference to, and then it'll have a book and a page number, signatures and dates. All of this is really good information because it lets you know you're in the right spot, you have the right property, and you're looking at the right people. And this is what I was saying with your reverse index. So sometimes you'll look it up and you'll find the person who is buying the house. This was a property I was looking for here in Osborne. So it told me who was buying the house. So that was the last name on the deed, when they bought it, who they bought it from, and the volume and the page number for the actual copy of the deed. So if I was looking to get more in depth, I could actually go to the recorder's office and pull out the deed with this number. You can tell them the book and the page number, and they'll help you find it. They're wonderful there. How I was able to confirm that I had the right property now, because I don't have a description, was all of these kept matching, the lot number and the addition in the town. And with the lot numbers, as you can see here on a map, they have the plots numbered so I could tell exactly where they were. Which brings us to another way to research your house, is using property maps. Plat books at the recorder's office, like what you can see here. Sanborn fire maps, newspapers actually have a lot of information. If you just put in your address that you're looking for, or any of the names that you've accumulated, you might find a lot of information, whether somebody had been sick, they had passed away, they had gotten in trouble, arrested. All of that good stuff is in the newspapers. And census records. Two places to find census records are through Ancestry here at the library and FamilySearch.org. And to do that, you look at the area that it was done in, the census was taken in. We'll get to that in a minute. So to find out what happened in your house, you're looking for things that would have caused trauma or big events to make the ghosts stay. So were there events, were there tragedies? Look for oral histories, were there accidents? All of these things are things you want to look at. But how do you find them? As I said before, once you have your names and the dates when the people were there, doing a simple newspaper search, Google search, or even a Facebook social media search, you can find a lot. Here's one about a fire on West 2nd Street. I had found the person's name. And as you can tell here, it was owned by one person, and that's how I found it, but it was occupied by somebody else. So that told me this Mr. James A. Chu was renting it to Mr. and Mrs. Clifford. So even though he was the owner, which I found on the deed, I found out that these were the people living there. So I knew to start looking for Mr. and Mrs. James Clifford to make sure everything, what happened with them, and make sure they hadn't passed away in the house. You need to research things like you do with genealogy, trying to find out what has actually happened in the house. Big things like death, illness, criminal records, any kind of tragedy that could have happened, someone passing away, illness, suicides, accidents, murders, accidental deaths, are all things you want to look for and find out that happened in your area, your neighborhood, on your property, and in the actual house that you're in. So this is an example of a census record, and to find where the person lived using those, what you would do is you would go up here and you would find the township that the person lived in the county of, in the state of, and then you go over here and you'd find the dwelling and the house number. So you can actually find clear down to the street and address of the person you're looking for if you know where about to look, which you would know because you have all that information in your deed. When you're researching these, you can even do it by name, but as we saw with the one newspaper article, he was renting the house. So I'd have to search by both names. You can search by name, or you can flip through everyone that's in your enumeration area. This specific one doesn't have the enumeration district on it, but a lot of the newer ones from the 1900s will have a district number. And you can follow those through and just flip through page by page of the census record until you find the house and street number you're looking for. This is an example of another house I researched. It talked about this Miss Blanche Viola Klein, that she had died in her house after she had been very sick, and who she left behind. So there's other people I can look at. I can look more into her life and what happened before. And maybe she's my ghost. Maybe some of her children are the ghosts. You never know. Another thing I do is I make a timeline, and this really helps keep things in order, because once you start finding newspaper articles and who lived there and who didn't live there, it makes it kind of hard to see what happened. So I like to make a timeline. And as you can see here, I have reports of when the haunting started. So I know stuff afterwards may be important, but I want to check beforehand as well. So I look for all the times when the property was sold. And I put those on my timeline. So in 1920, the Jones family bought it. In 1907-ish, the Smiths purchased the land. And then I have in here the things that I had found in the newspapers or in census records or in death certificates. When a baby and mother had died, when the house burned down, when there was a murder, suicide in the house. Those are all possible things that could have contributed to the haunting. The house being built could have contributed. So I put all the information that I have gathered in my timeline. That kind of gives me an idea of what's happening when, to kind of track things down a little bit more. Some resources that you guys can use: the auditor's webpage, the recorder's webpage, Greene County Library, because we have all kinds of good stuff here, local histories, newspapers, archives, the Greene County Room, maps, Allen County Public Library Percy. You can request information from there. And that's the Timeline Makers website that I use. And one of my other references that I use for putting this presentation together is the Dayton Ghost Hunters Society. Check them out on their Facebook page. And if you guys have any questions, as always, please contact your local library. And there you guys go. A basic, quick, fast introduction to how to research your house. I hope this helped everyone. And if you have any questions, please let us know.